a vision that's very peripheral, which is only one side possibly, into a whole 4 lane, 5 lane, or 6 lanes, or wherever you need to be going. But guess what? God wants us to stop looking back. So let's go to verse 12, and we're going to talk about Lot this morning. And I'm sure some of you all probably already know the story about Lot and about what happened in Sodom and Gomorrah. So I thought, well, let me skip down to the part that I want you to know about. So if you could read along with me. The two men said to Lot, "Do you have anyone else here, son-in-law, sons of daughters, or anyone else in the city who belongs to you? Get them out of here, because we are going to destroy this place. The outcry to the Lord against this people is great, that he has sent us to destroy it." So Lot went out and spoke to his son-in-laws, who were pledged to marry his daughters. He said, "Hurry and get out of this place, because the Lord is about to destroy the city." But his sons-in-law thought he was joking. With this coming of dawn, the angels urged Lot, saying, "Hurry, take your wife and your 2 daughters who are here, or you will be swept away with the city is punished." When he hesitated, the man grasped his hand and the hands of his wife and his 2 daughters, and led them safely out the city, for the Lord was merciful to them. As soon as they brought them out, one of them said, "Flee for your lives. Don't look back, and don't stop anywhere in the plains. Flee to the mountains, or you'll be swept away." But Lot said to them, "No, my Lord, please. Your servant has favor in your eyes, and you have shown great kindness to me in sparing my life. But I can't flee to the mountains. This disaster will overtake me, and I'll die. Look, here is a town near enough to run to, and it's a small. Let it flee to it. It is very small, isn't it? Then my life will be spared." He said to him, "Very well, I will grant this request to you. I will not overtake, but fleeing quickly, because I cannot do anything until you reach it." This is why the town was called Zoar. By the time Lot reached Zoar, the sun had risen over the land. Then the Lord rained down burning sulfur and Sodom and Gomorrah from the Lord of the heavens. Thus he overthrew those cities and the entire plain, including all those things living in cities, and also vegetation in the land. But Lot's wife looked back, and she became a pillar of salt. My title today, Are You Living Looking in a Rearview Mirror? And why did I choose that? Because of her looking back, it cost her her life. So looking back is not bad, but the thing is you can't stay there. And God wants us to move forward and not look back all the time. Today, in moving forward and not being that person looking back, looking through the rearview mirror, we find that she did not completely obey what had been told of her. He gave clear instructions when it says, "Do not look back." And he gave them warning because he says, "I'm telling you that you have to flee, and you have to flee early enough to get away." Sometimes God tells us to do something, and do we hold back? And then it becomes something of a disaster. We don't want to think about it, and sometimes we don't even want to admit that, but it happens to us. He'll say, "Go left," and you, in your might, "Well, I'm going to go right because this is what I want to do, and I'm going to do all these things because I want to do them." But he said, "But I told you. I told you." So he gives clear instructions. He'll tell us when and how. But he gives us an opportunity to make a decision for ourselves, because if we're listening to him and we have ears to hear what he's saying, he gives clear instructions. So why do we question? What is that hesitation? You're looking back, and he gives you a chance to look back, but he says, if you look forward, I have something for you there that you can see very clearly. It's not any obstacles in your way to keep you from moving forward, because sometimes when you look back, there are things that you see that will not allow you to move to the left or to the right. but because of his forward movement in your life, he gives you a clear view that you can look at. So I want you to think about looking out the windshield and not looking at the rear view mirror. We have many of us, and we all do it at some point in time, say, I remember in the day, which is truly not a bad thing, but some things he wants you to let go of. He says, you had this happen before, and it's not like, for you football people, it's not like it's an instant replay. You cannot come back and redo that over again like that. But you should have learned something from that. What you should have learned, okay, you went back, and I told you not to, and that person that was your friend that was causing you problems then, guess what? He's still causing you the same problems now. Did you not learn? So why did you want to look back and get that problem again when I give you the whole road? I give you a new life and a new view that you can focus yourself on and to look at. I give you hope. I give you an opportunity to do different and new things, to learn new things, but yet and still you want to hold on to what's behind you. I almost brought a mirror in here today to say, if you're holding a mirror and you're looking back at yourself, which is what you see, and you're going backwards, you're not going to get too far if you're doing this and you got this mirror, because you got to make adjustments. But when you move forward and have a forward view of what God wants for you, you have a clear view of where God's taking you to. Lot's wife probably looked back because she was attached to things. I'm a woman. I would be attached to my house. I would be attached to my clothes. I would say, well, I don't want to leave this because I'm comfortable, because I have friends there. I have status there in this place. Why are you taking me from a place where I've been comfortable with? But see, they were going to a better place. They were going to a place where the land was not going to be destroyed. They were going to a place where God was going to be, because obviously he came to destroy the land there because there was so much sin. So rather than take them out of that place and put them in another bad place, he had a better place for them to go. But sometimes we have short vision as to what God's doing, and we take over and we want to have our own vision. So looking back can cost you. It can cost you a lot. We see here, well, not only did it cost his wife, but it cost him to lose his wife because of that. And then the son-in-laws didn't come because they didn't believe. They thought it was a joke, it says. You know, he tells you something and, that ain't nothing. Why do I have to worry about that? I can do this later. He say, immediately you need to flee here, because if you don't, you will perish too. Now, if someone told you your house is burning, everybody got to get out, everybody. You cannot go back and get one thing. Think about how you felt at that time. That's how they must have felt. They're looking at their house with all their treasures and everything in there. Your impulse is to go, because there's one little thing in there that you think that you need, that you have to have, but guess what? You don't. You don't have to have that, because he tells us he comes to give us life, what? More abundantly. Whatever was in there, you can replace. It is not worth your life. She lost her life because she chose to turn around and look. Whatever it was not that important that you need to turn around and look. Today, you need to think about what you're looking at. And if you're turning around to look at something that could cost you your life. It's a small thing, but we don't look at it that way because we do it as a habit. But he gives us many opportunities to do that, to go and have a full view of what he wants. He takes us into another place. He sent them to another place, Zor. He says, you know, it's a small town, because he pleaded for him. You know, if he could just find one, and he couldn't find anybody. We don't want him to come in here and say, is there just one that will listen to me? Is there just one who won't turn back but will move forward? Reaching for God. He has so much more to offer us when we do that. And as we're making our plans to move forward, we look to see, when change comes, how does change affect us? Change affects us when we become obedient. Because disobedience is what caused her to lose her life. She had gotten instructions. She fully disobeyed them. How many times do you disobey? We all do at some point in time, but we see that being disobedient is not what we want to be in our lives. We want to trust God that if he's given us something, he's going to take care of it, and that, as he says, I will always be with you. I will never leave you or forsake you. So he's by your side. So the things that you think you have to have, you don't have to trust in that, because you're going to get more than that, because that's what he promises you. And we find that when God promises, he delivers. Now, you might ask me, I might not deliver. I might have an excuse why I can't do it. But he doesn't give an excuse. He always delivers. He's always an on-time God. And we learn that when we become disobedient, we miss our breakthrough out of being disobedient. I have something written here that says you can't make progress with God as long as you're holding on to pieces of your old life. Jesus said it this way: no one can serve two masters. So do you want to serve the Lord, or do you want to save yourself for the world? Who are you serving? So you have to be careful about when you make your choices, what you're doing, because it's your choice. He gives you an option. It's your choice. You're either going to be obedient, or you're just going to do it your way. But the thing is to follow his land and his way and his rules. Trying to do things our own way and not into God's plan causes us to stumble, to fail, to have disappointments, to fall into traps. Sin feels good, looks good, acts good. But in the end, it's not fulfilling. God is fulfilling. When you're looking through your rearview mirror and you find blind spots, those are the blind spots of your life. That's because it's missing things that you can't see, but he can see. This is why he says, I've instructed you to go down this street, and when you get to the corner, I want you to turn right, because that's the house that you've looked at all these years that's waiting for you. But if you decide to turn left, that house will no longer be there, because your focus is on the obedience of what God wants you to do. You thought you couldn't get it, so obviously you wanted to turn left. Why go look at something I can't have? But God said, yes, you can have it when you follow my instructions. You know, we don't want to turn away from what he has for us and look back and miss our blessing. Now, I have another individual that I want to bring to this, is Joshua. Joshua had a situation where he had a mentor, and the person he looked up to was Moses. And this will be coming from Joshua 1, 2, and 5, and I want to read this quickly to you. Moses, my servant, is dead. Now then, you and all these people get ready to cross the Jordan River into the land I'm about to give to you, the Israelites. I will give you every place where you set your foot. I promised Moses. Your territory will extend from the desert to Lebanon, and from the great river of Euphrates and all the Hittites' country to the great seas of the west. No one will be able to stand up against you all the days of your life. As I was with Moses, so I will be with you. I will never leave you or forsake you. God tells Joshua all these things, but because of what he saw Moses do, he thought that he could not do, because this had gone before him. So he was looking back at the past. He wasn't looking at the present. Moving forward, God says, accept what I've given you to do, knowing that if I'm giving it to you, I'm going to be with you for one thing. That's what he tells him. He says, I have a plan for you, that anything you want that I promise you will get. The ability is that you got to trust God. Our pastor is doing a series called Blind Faith. I think Joshua trusted and knew the Lord would be with him, but he didn't have blind faith at that time. He was looking back, turning back to look at what someone else had done, and not looking forward to what God was going to do for him. The second thing God tells Joshua is to change his strategy for the future. You looking for Moses to come back or for another Moses to arise, but no person that you're looking for is going to come back. That same person that you're looking in the rearview mirror is a reflection of yourself in the mirror. So when you go home and you're in the bathroom and you're looking for something or someone else to do it, that reflection that you see is you. Why? Because he's asking you to do it. He's asking you to do it. He didn't give that assignment to anybody else. So when you hear him with his instructions and you're trying to pass it off and you happen to go by a mirror and see yourself as a reflection, he said, I told you. Can't be any more clear than that. I told you. Because the reflection is of you. So guess what? Joshua had that experience. Moses wasn't coming back. It wasn't going to be another Moses to arise. God had given Joshua that assignment. And so the reflection that he needed to be looking at was himself. When taking on challenges that you feel that might defeat you, just like the one he had when he was expected to take the people across the Jordan, he asked him, what am I going to do with all these millions of people? I can't build any boats. You know, how are we going to get them across the bridge? You know, these are questions that we ask when we have turmoils in our life. Lord, how are we going to get across this? How are we going to make it through this? You know, we have questions, and we always have questions, but he says, trust me. Have I now told you, if you follow my instructions, what I'll do for you? See, there needs to be change. One thing you learn about God is that what he often tells you and is waiting on you to do is to apply his plan. He's giving you the tools, he's giving you the instructions, he's made it clear, but he's waiting on you. He says the journey is to walk by faith and not by sight. You don't have to see it, but you just have to know it's going to be there. We heard the term recently, faith is endless trust. God is endless. He's always there. So why do we need to doubt him? The third thing God gave Joshua was a promise. He said to get ready to cross the Jordan into the land that I'm about to give to them, to the Israelites. I will give you every place where you set your foot, as I promised Moses. What assurance is that? Every place you place your foot. Can you imagine? You go and put your foot somewhere and it's yours. That's a guarantee. You know, we have things that we get guarantees for in our house, like our appliances. Guaranteed to fail, and this might work and it might not work. But God's guarantee is assured for each and every one of us. It's a guarantee. God wanted Joshua to recognize that his promise was larger than the man Moses. It was bigger than that. The circumstances may have changed, but the plans to prosper him had not. God says, just because you might not know that Moses did this, but I'm going to do this for you. And so I'm going to do more than that for you. But I want you to see that. I want you to see that, and I want you to see your reflections. They were going to a good land God had promised them, not because they had earned it, but because God was giving it to them. It's easy for us to think life is over and we may give up. Joshua was at that point in his life. Moses no longer being with him. How on earth would they make it across the promised land? I don't know what your challenges have been for 2018, but my hope is that in 2019 that you move in with the promise of hope and relying on God's instructions and what he has for you. So you move out of the past and look forward to the future. I don't know what person you might have not said sorry to this year, but maybe next year you want to think about that and ask somebody for forgiveness and allow yourself to be free of that, moving forward, not holding on to that past hurt, but moving out of it into a place of peace and understanding with these individuals. We recognize that the past is not always bad, but the present and the now and the future is always good and can always be better if we only but trust. Trust in the instructions. trust in knowing that God says, I have better plans for you. Trust that when you put your foot down someplace, it's yours. That's the biggest thing that impacted me, knowing that if I move forward and step in the direction that he wants me to go to, I'm going to a place where I'm going to get what I need. But if I'm going back to where I was, to hurt, pain, disappointment, no job, frustration, then I'm going backwards in life. But if I move into hope, a new job, new friends, prosperity, money, new car, new house, all these things, forward movement. Because guess what? God promised. God promised. God promised. If you only but believe. Okay, we find also that during all this time, Joshua, he's starting to pick up and start to listen to what is being said to him. He still has doubts about things moving forward. But we have to know that God told Joshua, his assurance is, you're worthy of this. Sometimes we don't even feel worthy of things that happen to us, and we question, we say, why me? Someone gets a promotion on a job. Oh, I thought I'd be the last person. We walk in an attitude that we're not deserving, and that's not how God wants us to live. He says, if you ask, I promise, and you can get it, why not claim it? And I find that sometimes we as a people, we're so beaten down by things that we encounter during life, family, friends, jobs, things like that. It can really, beat you down, and you can think, well, I'm not deserving, but God says you are deserving because I promised. I didn't promise you. He promised you to give you life, more abundantly. And then when you look at the fact that he's taking you in a forward movement so you can get these things, that's something to look forward to. You don't have to look back at what happened behind you, but you look forward, because we already know looking back sometimes can cost you. So we want to have a forward movement and looking forward and trusting in what God has for us. Now God said to Joshua in so many words, son, I know you're scared to death. Moses is a pretty big act to follow, and I think we all know about Moses, doing the sea and all these things. I would feel the same way. Some people you don't want to come behind, If somebody gets up and pray and then you got to come and say something, you be like, Lord, well, why me? Okay, but looking back, he said, I chose you, so get on up and do it. Today, I was thinking on my way here, I said, Lord, why me today? And I was whining and I was complaining. I told my sister here, I'm good, it's going to be, I'm good. And then my other sister over here tells me, well, Joanne, I'm like, well, no, I'm still good, I'm not trusting God. But his plans are always bigger and better than mine. So I told him later on, let me shut my mouth. I just had to be quiet. We did a devotion on Philippians, and it talks about thanksgiving and prayer. And when prayer goes forward, things change. Things did change. The atmosphere changes in this place, So you learn lessons that God is always able. Moses wasn't the act I was looking for. Not trying to be like him, Joshua was probably thinking, I can't stand up to what he's already done. People are going to already doubt me because they're going to say, if Moses was here, guess what? If Pastor was here, she'd probably have a different sermon. This is my sermon. This is my day and my time. I'm trusting God. I got blind faith. You all have blind faith this morning? Good. You need to have that. But guess what? I'm not looking back at what she's done, but I'm looking back at what I learned. And I got a forward movement. I have a forward movement. I'm Joshua this morning. Lord, I trust you. I'm going to stand up because of the fact that you made promises to me, and I've seen all the promises you've done before. I saw all the miracles that you've done before. So I'm trusting to know that if I look out the windshield, I got a clear view on where you're taking me. I know that we're going to get across the Jordan because you've already made that a part of your plan. I did not quite understand your instructions, but I think I got it now that didn't you tell me you're going to be with me? And didn't you tell me if I put my foot down, I can have what I want? So as I'm walking towards the Jordan, I know that if they're behind me, guess what? I'm taking them with me. in a forward motion of moving and looking out a windshield instead of looking back out the rearview mirror. So if I can leave you with anything, I want you to know that have forward moving. I'm not saying looking back is bad, but I'm saying be cautious when you look back. Because one thing for sure, you can't tarry there if it's not something that's going to prosper you. Let it go. You can get some more. Let it go, because that's better looking forward for you. So just have a forward movement in knowing that if you trust God, not only will he deliver, but he's faithful to keep his promises. He never disappoints. Now, man will, like I told you, you ask me to do something, I'm pretty good, but I might fail you. Don't mean to, but I'm a human being. I'm not a God. But if you call on him and look to him and follow his instructions, brothers and sisters, not your instructions. He makes it real clear. If you follow my instructions, I will give you all that you need and could ever hope for. So we just thank God today for the fact that we live on his promises and are forward moving and knowing if we trust in him, all things are possible through Jesus Christ. Amen. So I hope that you heard something today that will not only encourage you, but there's something you can share with somebody else, during this week. Amen. Is there anyone that would need any prayer this morning? We'll have some music playing and we'll close out.